Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlon and welcome to the latest edition of the RCB Radio Sports Show, live at 92.5 and 94.8 FM and online at www.rcb.ie. I'm delighted this evening to be joined by Seamus Hayes and Nicholas Ring to look ahead to the upcoming weekend's action of football in terms of the two games in the Clare Senior Club Football Championships semi-finals, the two intermediate semi-finals, and the relegation last game in the relegation in the Clare Senior Football Championship, and the Junior A final between close neighbours Ballyvaughan and Innistimon. But it's Clare Senior Football Club Championships semi-finals where we start our preview of tonight's show. And the first game up Saturday is the clash of St. Brickens versus Rogue. An intriguing matchup. I was struggling to remember the last time St. Brickens and Rogue have met in the championship. I say it's going back a long time around. St. Brickens' faultless run to the stage of the semi-final, taking down probably one of the most dominant teams in the last decade in the Clare Senior Football Championship in Milltown Malbay, while Rogue stuttered and sort of highs and lows through their groups, but they came out good in the quarterfinal with a rousing display to get over to Innistimon. I'm going to start off with you, Seamus, and just a quick question. Can you remember off the top of your head when Brickens and Rogue last met in the championship?
I can't. I don't know that they ever meet in the senior championship. To be honest, they probably did, but I can't remember offhand. Like, you know, Rogue or St. Brickens are a relatively young senior club. You know, and I'm not talking about their most recent promotion to senior. You know, but they won the senior back in '82. Or they won in intermediate, became a senior club and they stayed senior for a number of years, and then went back down to intermediate. And but it's in the modern time, I suppose, that they have really established themselves, mainly through great work coming through the school, the Mary Immaculate College up there in Liston-Varna, great work by people like Pat Harrington, and obviously the club built on that. And I suppose the question is often asked at this time of year, you know, a club that does very well in a competition, can they repeat it the following year and go further? You know, St. Brickens were very impressive last year, a bit unlucky to go out to Cratloe in the semi-final. And the question was, could they step up from that and this year? And they certainly have, you know, and their display in the last round against Milltown was particularly impressive. You know, and on that basis, people are travelling, or saying they're travelling to Cusack Park this Saturday, expecting a real cracking contest. I suppose we've all known that Rogue have bundles of talent, but they haven't really delivered, I suppose, in modern times. They have gone out when least expected to go out of championship, and this is their first time in 5 or 6 years in getting to a semi-final. So they have a very talented squad as well, and they're in the situation right now where they're in the semi-final of both senior championships, hurling and football, with maybe 7 starters in both, and obviously their supporters are talking in terms of a double. So there's a lot at stake in this game.
I suppose, Nicholas, when you look at both teams' style of football, it's really intriguing as well, because Rogue like to play on the front foot. We know Brickens are best when they're attacking. They're designed to attack, especially with the forwards and the calibre that they have. Donny is all about attacking football against Brickens. So it almost feels like it's a gung-ho sort of gladiator style in terms of this matchup, where we'll go at you, you go at us, we'll go at you, you go at us. So it could be a sort of a ding-dong sort of 12-round heavyweight sort of a tussle here, where both forwards will really fancy their chances against both sets of backs.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. And I suppose Seamus alluded to that. There's a lot of people going to be coming to this game, and I believe they will, because two exciting teams, no doubt. St. Brickens have been the most exciting team, you know, over the last 2 to 3 years, and I suppose the two styles, like, I mean, absolutely, yeah, they both teams go at it and they go with attacking. That's the kind of football you want to see at Cusack Park in the semi-final. You want teams who are prepared to, you know, we've seen a few championship games in the last few years where teams have kind of played again cat and mouse, if you like, with each other, and big teams at that, like, you know. So I think this is going to be a really refreshing semi-final, where you'd see attacking play, and that's what everybody goes to see. You know, people getting sick now of blanket defences, and there's maybe not so much blanket defences in Clare, but you know, defensive-minded managers and defensive-minded teams. So it's refreshing. Donny Galley, he said certainly he's a man who he wants to see his team playing attacking football, and likewise Paul Madden for Éire Óg. There's a lot of big names in there. Joseph McCann, you mentioned there, Cathal Gerlin and Jamie Steck, great half forward line, and with Davis and Kelly and Dan Harnside in the full, if that's the line out, you know, they're really attacking players. Their captain Alan Sweeney, centre back, is a man who likes to push up the field as well through their two wing backs. So that's what you want to be going down to see. Like, that's why you turn up at Music Park, see scores being made and created. And then on the Éire Óg side, Gavin Cooney is a very exciting player. Mark McKinnon, a young player. Ogura is another talented player, a bit of more of a playmaker, I suppose. He brings people in around him, you know, and looking forward to seeing those players. Like defenders, of course, have got to be very important as well. Like, but certainly two attacking teams, and that's what will bring the crowd. Éire Óg will bring a big crowd. There'll be a big crowd out from North Clare, you know. So hopefully, the weather, the showers promising that, but hopefully we get a dry 70 or 80 minutes, and you know, let the football do the talking after that.
Seamus, just on that, and Nicholas mentioned defenders, and for me, anyway, no doubt about it, the best half back line in the senior championship at the moment, it's a county line really. When you look at it, it's the Éire Óg half back line. And if you're picking a team of the year at the moment, you'd have Kieran Russell as one wing back, you'd have Éanna O'Connor as your other wing back on the team, and you would find it hard possibly to leave Conal O'Hanlon out of there as well, maybe the exception, but especially that line for Éire Óg, it's really one of the best lines possibly out there of all the clubs in the Clare Senior Championship. That's really been where everything really starts for Éire Óg, especially Éanna O'Connor. He's having a terrific championship there at wing back for Éire Óg.
Yeah, and he has tremendous pace, and he loves attacking. So does Kieran Russell love attacking, and I suppose it has always been said that you know, the launch pad for any good team is a half back line, whether it be hurling or football. And you know, we saw that with the Clare Hurlers in the 90s. The half back line was the launch pad for many of their great attacks that led to many successes, and certainly this is the case with Éire Óg here. And you know, Kieran Russell he can play anywhere, and he's having a really outstanding year, both for hurling and football. Then you have Aaron Fitzgerald, you know, behind that half back line, and you know, Liam Corrie. There's the oodles of talent there, and it's a mouth-watering prospect, this game. You know, there's so much, there's so many talented players on both sides. You know, there's huge work has been done with St. Brecken's through obviously Donny Gary, his mentorship, Declan O'Keefe as a coach, Rob Mulcahy, strength and conditioning. You know, they're top of the range guys who know what it's all about and know what's needed to win. And you could see that in the play of Éire Óg this year, or of St. Brecken's this year. You can also see it in the play of Éire Óg, obviously. You know, and they have, you know, they might have struggled in parts of one or two of their games, but they have been so impressive, so settled. I suppose that's a big key for most teams, if you can get a settled squad. And in the modern game now, it's a 20-man game, you know, and while we haven't seen him yet, we saw Dara Welsh last Sunday in the hurling. He's just recently back after a couple of years in the States. Huge asset to Éire Óg. And obviously, I expect he'll play some part in this game, you know, if needed. And I suppose Gavin Cooney, question is he fully fit? He hobbled off last Sunday in the hurling game, and I suppose that's an issue the Éire Óg will have to deal with right now. You know, hurling football every second week, and all tough games at this time of the year, the latter stages of any championship. But this really has the makings of the game of the championship, if you like, at this stage. And you know, there'll be a lot of people turning up at Music Park, a lot of neutrals who from other clubs, expecting to see a really cracking contest, and I think they won't be disappointed.
And lastly, before we leave this game, Nicholas, and one thing that struck me about this contest is people said the last day Brickens might struggle in the middle of the park against a Milltown midfield of Conor Cleary, probably Dara McDonough out there. But that wasn't really the case, and the Brickens stood up in that sort of area. Dale Masterson was very good. Marker Bourne chipped in around that sort of area as well. And strongly people will say, look at Erogue, they say, oh, Darren O'Neill. But David McNamara's have the terrific championship there for Erogue out in the middle of the park as well. So that's an intriguing sort of tussle. Predominantly, you'd probably look in paper and you say Darren O'Neill and David McNamara might have the edge. But Bricken showed that they turned the coin there in terms of what would seem to be a vastly superior, well, not superior, a vastly impressive Milltown midfield partnership. Brickens came out and they won that area as well.
Yeah, indeed they did. Like, and you know, they invested, and as you said, Liam Tierney. Darren O'Neill, like, he's a inter-county player. Like, we all know what he can do, and like he'll win a lot of the aerial battles anyway. For certain, like he's 6'6". I'm not sure, but he's in around there anyway. And David McNamara is just having a fantastic year in both football and hurling. He's really flying it. He's a powerful big fella, and he's a fella who loves, you know, he comes in at speed and he does everything at pace, and he gives a great option to his forwards because he'll come through. But as you said, Reckons passed the test against Milltown for sure, you know, against formidable opponents, and I don't think they'll be faced on Sunday either. And you know, their midfield plays a big part, as does their half-back line, in getting that ball, fast ball. Their forwards want fast ball, and that's what their midfielders will be trying to do. Of course, the same can be said for Erogue. But I wouldn't have any fear for any the Brickens, be it midfield, be it any line there. If you look at, you know, they've accounted themselves very well over the last 2 years, and they've improved. They got very close last year, as Seamus alluded to. They were just pipped at the post by Cratloe. So to come back and do it all again and be back here again, just is testament to these guys are no flukes, or they're no, you know, 1 year wonders or anything like that. They're really they've worked their way up through underage, right through with this team, and a lot of hard work has gone into them, and you can see that. What's most impressive about Brickens is their style of play. They want to go out and play their own game. They're not too worried about oppositions. They're interested in playing their own game, getting forward, getting the scores, and creating the scores. And they have the players right through the pitch, not just the midfield, right through the pitch. And you know, it'll be an intriguing battle. You know, the four midfielders on Sunday, or you know, any one of them is a match winner on his own right. So that's another interesting aspect of the game on Sunday, to see how, you know, how Brickens cope with Darren O'Neill in particularly strong player, you know, and you know, very very calm player. Like, you know, when he gets that ball, like he doesn't do anything silly, like, you know, and so it'd be interesting to see that battle, as Jim.
We'll move on now to the second semi-final in Clare Senior Football Championship, and it's the tussle, a repeat of last year's county semi-final, Kilmurray Bricken versus Lissy Casey. And Seamus, if I can start off with you, I was listening to Clare FM on the way down from Kilmehel there this evening, and I heard Joe Gary talking about his synopsis of this game, and he said Lissy Casey will have to play at a real high pace. Fast. Keep the game at a high tempo for 60 minutes and not let Kilmurray Bricken dictate the tempo and bring it down to a slower type game of football. Is that something you'd agree with? Do you think Lissy Casey need to go full juggernaut Sunday against Kilmurray Bricken and try and maybe crank up that level intensity and test out the legs of Kilmurray Bricken?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree with that assessment at all. But you know, Kilmurray Bricken have been there or thereabouts throughout the last decade. They won a lot of championships in that time. You know, people are arguing that a lot of their maybe more senior players might be nearing the end of their careers, if you like. But they haven't shown any weakness that I've seen so far this year. You know, they started the year poorly in the league. Back at the start of the season, and they were struggling at that stage. struggling, I suppose, to find form. They were playing a lot of players who would normally have been playing senior football. They were kind of, I'd say, a lot of their more senior players hadn't come out of winter hibernation, if you like. But since then they've improved since the championship started. They have improved with every outing. They've got better with each game. And there's no doubt that whoever it is, be it my own club, Lissycasey, or any other club, taking on Kilmurray Bricken is a huge task. They know how to win games. The Enda Coughlins, the Marty McMahons, the Darren Hickeys of this world. They've been around and they know what's required and they know what to do. And they kind of know every other opposition upside down. And Lissycasey will certainly have to be at their peak of their powers, if you like. They'll have to be moving all the time if they're going to upset them. It was very close last year. Small bit of luck, and Lissycasey could have emerged winners as it was. They lost out by a point. And we're back in the same situation this year. And people will say that maybe Kilmurray are a player or two down. Obviously Dermot Coughlin and Shane Hickey, but those two players in particular are huge losses. There'd be losses at inter-county level, never mind club level. And to be playing without those two who are out through injury is massive. But Kilmurray have a knack of finding players when they need them. And they've got a few lads back. Mark McCarthy's back in their ranks this year, having been away last year. And the importance of their senior players and what they bring to the team, I can't stress it enough. And if Lissycasey are going to overturn them, they'll have to be playing at a huge pace, as Joe Gary suggested in what you heard this evening. I didn't hear Joe now, but he knows football fairly well and clear, and he'll know what's involved. So if Lissycasey have to do that, they'll have to step up again from their recent outings.
Nicholas, just on Lissycasey and Kilmurray Bricken, the quarter-final, maybe Kilmurray Bricken got a scare from Kilmehel in terms of Kilmehel's performances, and obviously Kilmehel were probably ruining a few chances they left behind them. I almost felt like watching that game and seeing Aidan Maloney's reaction at the full time. He was angry. He was a bit despondent about the performance, but he knew there was an awful lot of work to do as well. So maybe getting that scare from Kilmehel and maybe that sort of performance, Kilmurray are not probably going to produce a performance like that again. They'll probably have a lot of homework to take away from that Kilmehel game as well. Think maybe that's glitchiness that they might stand to them going into the semi-final. Obviously, they're coming away with a win from a quarter-final, but with a bit to do as well.
Yeah, Jim, I suppose Aidan Maloney said after the game that he knew there was a lot to be done and they knew what they had to do, and they have to do. They did struggle against Kilmehel. They struggled against Kilmehel. If Kilmehel were able to take, I think they created 4 goal chances. If they had even taken one, particularly the one there, maybe was just after half time, they got a great opportunity. I think they got a point out of it. But if they put away one or two of those goals, I think Kilmurray Bricken would have been in real trouble. They didn't do that. Now there's where Lissycasey will have to learn that they would have to take every single chance they get on Sunday. And if a goal chance presents itself, which I'm sure it will, they have to nail it. And that's how you beat Kilmurray Bricken. You have to take all your chances. Definitely have to pay them at pace. I thought Kilmurray looked very sluggish against Kilmehel. They looked very slow, particularly in the full back line there. They were almost there for the taking. I felt on that day, you can say they had an off day, or you could ask. We saw a 6-mile bridge score in the championship last Sunday, and a lot of it was heavy legs, a lot of work, a lot of years gone in over the last number of years, and it's the same here with Kilmurray Bricken. I feel, great champions, 6-mile bridge are great champions. Kilmurray Bricken, have been great champions there. They've been the big standard bearers over the last year for Mitchell Malbay, but time catches up to everyone, and I'm just wondering. The alarm bells were beginning to ring, I think, there against Kilmehel, and a relatively youthful Kilmehel team, but lacking maybe a bit of experience. really put him to the pin of their collar. And I think Aidan Maloney was disappointed because he probably knows that a few of his lads are nearing the end of the great service that they are. You know, the time catches up with everyone. But you know, Lissy Casey really has to go at this. They have to take every chance. You know, and I smile there when I hear a Lissy Casey man building up a Kilmurray Bricken team there. Seamus there was you have to read between the lines, but I wouldn't disagree with anything that Seamus has said. But I really feel it's a great opportunity for Lissy Casey. They have been knocking the door, you know, to get into a final over the last few seasons, and they're getting a bit more mature. They certainly have the forwards. You know, they have Conor Finucane, Aaron Griffin in the Finucane, Paul Nagy, Kelly, and you know Meany. They certainly have the forwards to cause trouble for Kilmurray Bricken. And if they bring the pace, Lissy Casey play an awful lot like Brickens. You know, they come at pace and they do everything at 100 miles an hour. And if they can do that for 70 minutes on Sunday, I think they could be making their way to a county final. But in the old dog for the long road, Kilmurray Bricken have been at this for years. Ed Maloney is a shoot manager. And you know, all those lads, I'm looking at the Kilmurray Bricken team, there's not one fella there that you say doesn't have experience. Even the youngest players there are seriously experienced. You know, we have the likes of Keelan Sexton, Matthew McMahon, you know, in the Coughlin, Dara Hickey, you know, at fullback. You know, they're all seasoned campaigners. You know, so Lissy Casey will really, as I said, they have to take all their chances. And they have to come out with fire, which I'm sure I know they will. That's not say, you know, they come out with fire in their bellies, but they really have to go at it from the word go. And I give Lissy Casey a great chance of a big, I wouldn't say a big upset, but certainly an upset if they can turn over Kilmurray Bricken.
Seamus, just on this tie as well, going into it, Keelan Sexton is the top scorer in the championship. An awful lot of his scores has come from dead ball. Darren Canlan has scored an awful lot as well from dead ball as well. So discipline is going to be very, very key, I imagine, for Lissy Casey defensively wise inside their own 45, because you give a free kick away, and Kilmurray are so patient in how they build up, and they're experts in terms of engineering free kick opportunities for themselves inside the 45. Are we going to really see how Lissy Casey have matured defensively as a team, maybe to stand up and be patient in their tackling as well, and not give Keelan Sexton and Darren Canlan free shots in goal? And obviously as well with Dermot Coughlin out, probably everyone knows that Keelan is the main two-goal guy as well. So if Lissy Casey can maybe quieten Keelan Sexton to a degree in terms of his scoring ability and get that matchup right, you wonder where the scores will come from Kilmurray Bricken, provided Lissy Casey are defensively disciplined in their defending inside their 45.
Yeah, there's no question Keelan Sexton is having an outstanding club championship. No, he's arguably one of the players of the championship so far. So Lissy Casey will have to be extremely disciplined, because give away a free, you're 99% giving away a score with Keelan Sexton or Darren Callan about with the way they have been shooting so far in the campaign. So yes, you're right. That's a very important area of the game for Lissy Casey. They'll have to limit the frees that they'll concede. You know, obviously the target, every club would love not to concede any free, but and the law of averages, there's going to be few conceded by every team. But you know, Lissy Casey will have to keep that to a minimum, because it's practically giving away a score with the way the two lads have been playing for Kilmurray. So I'm sure that Lissy Casey have worked on that in the last couple of weeks. You know, with this game in mind, they will have seen the way Kilmurray have operated, and they will have seen how good the two lads are from play balls, and indeed from play, because you give them half a chance in play, they'll convert as well. And particularly Keelan, I think it was nearly half and half of his tally the last frees and play. So that's something they'll have to be wary of, and they'll have to be wary of curbing his influence on the game. It's as simple as that. So it's easier said than done, but it's something I'm sure that the management team will have worked on.
And Nicholas, before we leave this game, just a wild card sort of factor throwing into this game now as well. Kilmaley bowed out of the Clare Senior Championship. Mikey O'Neill played the full game for Kilmaley last weekend. I know possibly he hasn't been available for Lissy Casey throughout the entirety of the championship, but he's probably a wild card that's going down the whole stretch, maybe with around 20 minutes to go, that Lissy Casey can spring that player who's very instrumental to the run to the championship semi-final last year, played a pivotal role in the half-forward line, and he's probably something on the bench that Lissy Casey probably didn't have in the previous rounds that they now can call on, maybe.
Oh, well, yeah, Mikey, what he would bring to this is a lot of pace, like, and a lot of determination. He's a very determined player, and he's a very pacey player. And I'm sure Kilmurray will welcome him back for sure, and have him there on the bench. And like you say, if he's needed, sorry, Casey welcome him back, absolutely. I'm getting confused with Aidan McGuinn, but Mikey certainly would be an asset for certain bringing him back. But I suppose it's hard to bring the men back and just throw him in there. It has to be fine because you'll have other players as well. No, I don't know, but I'd be wary. I'm sure I'm sure John Ryan will be fairly wary, like, of what he do, of just bringing him in like that. But he's definitely, to have him there on the bench, he's definitely, with Mikey, he's a little terrier, like, I mean, he's afraid of nothing, he's no fear, and he's paced to burn, like, and he's able to kick a score or two as well, like, which would be a big bonus in this case. Every man you have is going to be absolutely a bonus. Man I didn't mention there, who's lying there in hurling as well, is Ed McCarthy and Jason McCarthy, and they bring a lot. They're the younger members of the Kilmurray Bricken panel, and I think a lot will rest on their shoulders, on how this game goes on Sunday as well. And my apologies to Mikey O'Neill for transferring him there for a few minutes to Kilmurray Bricken, but he's back with Lissy Casey again.
Lads, we'll move on now to the intermediate semi-finals, and first up in the park at 1:30 Saturday is the clash between Corofin and O'Curry's. And Nicholas, I'll start with you. Corofin carried the favourites tag going into the championship, absolutely flawless so far, put down a serious marker in their total dismantlement of Michael Cusick's in the quarter-final. Jamie Malone back in throw. The youngsters are really coming of age now and flourishing in Corofin. Corofin are probably playing like a senior outfit in the Intermediate Championship. And do you think come this weekend, even though O'Curry's a resolute, experienced, old dogs, wiry sort of thing, do you think maybe Corofin will probably get their best test of the year, but do you think maybe that they have enough in the tank this time to get back to the county final stage?
Yeah, I think Corofin they're really going well now, and I suppose they're going to be favourites. Obviously, you mentioned O'Curry's, like, and they're probably an older team, at it longer, like, which. Corofin have they have the Cahals there. They have Killian McRory, Robin Mounsey, like, the men who played underage. Kevin Keane, he's a big, strong player there, big midfielder. They have the backs as well. I heard during the week now, I don't know if it's true, that Killian Mullins might be playing, that Crusheen went in to play for the relegation. How true that is, I'm not sure. But Killian Mullins, if he is missing Corofin, would be a serious blow at him, because he's not only their captain, but I think Killian Mullins is the man who's going to play for the county. He's playing that well, like, he's a dual player, but he's a magnificent footballer. Now, it's only a rumour I heard it from a Corofin man, but I'm not too sure on how true that is. But he would be a huge blow to them. But I would still make Corofin favourites, but O'Curry's have come along there, and they've come, reasonably hard enough road too. Like, you know, they have the tries there and the downs and you know, they're trained, coached by Jack Quinlan. Like, in any team that's going to be coached by Jack Quinlan will have a bit of bite in them. But I think you're right. I think it's a Corofin will be a senior team next year. I feel anyway. You know, you know, but there's a lot to be played. There's a lot for what we play, Jason, not just Sunday.
Seamus, just going into this tie as well, people will look at the marquee sort of players like Corofin in terms of Jamie Malone, Garrod Cahill. But the one player for me that's really shone in this intermediate championship is the younger brother of the Cahills, Diarmuid. 1-7 there the last day against Michael Cusick's, playing at centre forward. It seems nearly everything is going through Diarmuid at the moment. He seems to be the catalyst, the fulcrum for the Corofin sort of attack as well. Do you think that's going to be a pivotal matchup for O'Curry's to minimise Diarmuid's sort of influence? Because he is a player with great vision, great passing ability. I know from working with him underage how talented this boy is in terms of football as well. Do you think maybe that he's a player that, if you worry too much about Jamie Malone and Garrod Cahill, that Diarmuid could beat you on his own?
Yeah, certainly. I think that's the plus that Corofin have had in recent times while Jamie has been out. These fellas have really stepped up to the mark. Both the Cahills and Killian McRory, and you know, there's a great core of young players, you know, in this Corofin team. You know, they're on the latter stages of last year's minor A championship still to be concluded. You know, they certainly have been doing the work at underage level, and these fellas are coming through to the senior grade. And certainly, you know, O'Curry's simply can't afford to close their eye out to him and be focusing totally on Jamie. You know, they have to keep an eye on the young fellas as well. And I suppose Corofin will be hoping that the pace of these fellas and the way they move the ball up front, you know, that's one of the things that has impressed me about them, their movement. And you know, they set out as favourites to the championship. Yeah, I suppose they were obviously disappointed to be knocked out of the hurling championship, but maybe in a way it's helping them now in the sense that they can focus totally on the football, because they're practically nearly all the same players playing both courts. So they will certainly be looking to those fellas to, if you like, create the opportunities and open up the O'Curry's defence. But you know, O'Curry's are a wily campaign team. They've been around for a while. Most of their players, you know, have bags of experience, and they've been there or thereabouts in the closing stages. And just as Nicholas said there, Jared Quinlan is in charge of the coaching this year. He played for them for many years and played with distinction and led them to a lot of great victories. And Denny McMahon, their manager, is an even, if there's such a thing, he's an even more wily campaigner, you know, very shrewd man on the sideline. And Andrew Curtin, another guy with them there. You know, they're all great clubmen. They've been part of the club all their life, and they bring a great passion with them, which is reflecting the way they play, the way the players play. So this is really the makings of a great game. You know, yes, Corofin are favourites, and favourites not alone to win this, but maybe to win the championship. But they are favourites to win this game. But they'll have to be on their toes to get over this crowd from the west.
Nicholas, just on this as well. Douglas Hurley is in charge of Corofin. Now, he was their underage manager for an awful lot of these underage players that had footballing success at 16 and minor. So they went with a manager this year that was in charge of all these younger players coming up now. So he's gone up and taken a step in the senior. Has that really been a help and a catalyst for a Corofin, that a guy that had these players all at underage now is taking on the job of their adult team as well? So he's putting an awful lot of trust into these players.
Yeah, well, I suppose Douglas know these players. He know what they have for their supper. He knows them so well. Like, and I suppose when you come up with a team, it's nice to see a manager come along with your team, because he you know, he'll have that trust and they'll buy into everything, as opposed to a manager coming in and they're changing manager from underage. You know, they trust Douglas. They have one underage, they have one all the way up along with him, and they trust him. And I suppose the big thing for a manager, you have to have the team. You have to have the team on your side. and you have to have the team, back in the way you want the game to be played, and that's a major bonus. Like, he'd be close to the team, he'd be close to them, and that's as I say, I think that's a great bonus for any manager. He knows them inside out. He knows their form. He knows when one will be a bit down. He knows exactly what to say, how to get a moving and that. But he's a great bunch of players. Like, and these bunch of players just didn't appear. I saw a good few of these playing underage and playing for St. Flannan's as well as underage, and they've come along and been brought up right through the underage structure, like, which they have a great structure in Corofin now. And they have, what I admire about Corofin is they have a hurling club there as well, and they're probably more predominantly a football club, but they treat both codes equally, and they give the same credence to both codes, and I think they're to be commended for that, because there's some clubs there who are not doing that, and that's very disappointing to see, and I take my head up to Corofin for that, and so Douglas is the man there, and he knows that team inside out, and it is a bonus for Corofin to have him with those players for so long.
And finally, before we move on from this game, Seamus, just on the O'Curry's in terms of scoring threat, in terms of, we all know Owen Troy's capability. Owen is getting on a bit in age. Probably they have workers in the half-bar line, and Tomas, Clancy, and young Shane Brown. But in terms of the scoring threat, is it very much on the shoulders of Cathal Downs? Has been there for a while, Cathal and Owen, to come up with the scores? Is there more of a scoring threat from O'Curry's? Is there a goal threat in O'Curry's?
Well, there is, I suppose, in a way. If you look at the last game, they were probably out of the championship with a couple of minutes to go against Coolmeen, and they needed a goal, and they were able to engineer a goal. I suppose, if you're looking at the two teams, you'd say there's a lot more scoring threat looking at them on paper from the Cahals and from Jamie Malone. But the O'Curry's guys, they work so hard as a team. They really work so hard as a team, and there's probably no one standout player that you can say, well, this is the man to get the ball to. He's going to score if he gets it. Any of them will apply the finished, but they'll work so hard as a group together to get into those positions. And I suppose that's something that has stood to them this year. They're probably better known for their defensive qualities, maybe, for keeping the scoreline of opponents down and then pouncing for what they need themselves. But, this is, I think this is going to be a close enough game. I do accept that Corofin are the favourites, and any result other than a Corofin victory will be seen as a big surprise. But having seen O'Curry's many, many times over the years, they just don't know when to give up, and they don't give up. They never throw in the towel, and they'll battle right to the last few seconds. So you can never say you've been beaten at the other side and trust them after the game. So from that point of view, they're one step away from being in the county final, and they know that. So they'll fight tooth and nail to get there.
We'll move on now to Sunday's other semi-final, Kildysart versus Kilfenora. And the first simple question, Seamus, just to start off, does the group game that Kildysart and Kilfenora had, does that mean nothing?
Probably at this stage it doesn't mean anything other than that they would both have learned a bit about each other, and they might know who the danger men and each other's teams are. But I think, particularly Kilfenora have improved since then. They have maybe have a more settled outfit now. Kildysart look very good. They look very talented, and they look like a team that wouldn't be out of place at senior level. They have a group of young players there coming through as well, and but they struggled last day out against Shannon Gales. And many expected them to win that comfortably. They struggled to get over the line, 10 points to 7. Kilfenora, Aidan O'Keefe, I suppose he was a great Clare footballer. He's a shrewd man on the sideline, a shrewd coach. He's in charge of Kilfenora. He'll have them well organised. And then there's the Keane O'D factor. You could only let Keane off on his own to play opponents, and he'll give an outstanding account of himself. You know, he's been leading the team. He's the team captain. He's the go-to man. You know, and they have a settled side. So I think they'll put it up to Kildysart again, like the other semi-final. Kildysart carry the favourites tag, and if they don't win, it will be seen as a big surprise. But Kilfenora have improved at every game, and you know, they have a seasoned group of players there. They may have a small pick. They may not have a big panel like the other clubs left in the competition. You know, you might only see 19 or 20 names maximum on their panel. You know, and they haven't that many options, I suppose, because of the small pick. But what they have are a group of players, you know, who literally die for the jersey, and they're now 60 minutes away from a place in the county final. You know, and they haven't been in too many finals in modern times. So, you know, this is they will see this as a real opportunity, and Aidan O'Keefe will certainly see this as a real opportunity, and he'll have them well tutored. He'll have a good tactical plan because he's strong in that area, and you know, I expect him to make life difficult for Kildysart.
Nicholas, in terms of Kildysart last year, they were on a roll going into the semi-final against Corfin. Everything was over within 15 minutes. For some reason, it was just a disaster on the day for Kildysart. Obviously, the management departed. New management there this year. They seem to be determined to make up from last year's mistake and error of that flat performance that they had at this stage last year against behind in Dunbeg against Corfin. Do you think maybe that lesson's going to stand to them this time around, knowing what happened last year, maybe going into such a role that to be confident that we're right, we're not going to take anything for granted this time around?
Absolutely, yeah. When something like that happens, you have to learn from it, like, and they've shown their determination to get back in the semi-final. You know, they look back. I'm sure they have used that more than once or twice this year to say, look, we don't want a repeat of what happened, and you know, determination like is a big thing, and you have to have that determination. Sometimes a defeat, and that kind of a defeat is going to drive you on. It'll either kill you or drive you on the other. But in the Kildysart case, it seems to be driving them on. And you know, this is a very hard game to call. As far as I can see, they're saying Kildysart is our favourites, but Kilfenora are a fair outfit as well. Like, you know, Keane O'Dee's mentioned Jack O'Dea is his brother is a fair operator as well. They're around the middle of the field, and they're a very tight knit group, as are Kildysart, of course. But Keith O'Connor, a big midfielder there for Kildysart. Emmett McMahon's, you know, everybody knows Emmett McMahon and what he can do. A fantastic player, like, and will be able to get those long range feeds as well. So it's going to be an intriguing battle. Kildysart certainly won't want that memory again. They won't want to you know, I don't think that'll ever happen again anyway. But you know, that happens. But it'll probably be a driving force from now that they want to get over the line here. You know, and they want to confirm their favourites tag. But it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a hard one to call. You know, so I suppose it'll be down to who turns up on the day, and the old cliche, who wants it the most.
Seamus, psychologically, there's so many times that you can go to the well before the well dries up and those opportunities are gone. Kildysart have been there an awful lot now over the last decade, and it's really around this stage or the final stage where things haven't got right. They haven't got the look, maybe the rub of the green. Psychologically, are Kildysart coming to the stage now where it's pivotal? It has to happen now or in the next year, with the two teams coming down from senior, that door might slam on their face fairly soon.
Yeah, you could say that in one way, but I suppose for the most part, they're a relatively young team. You know, okay, they have a couple of seasoned campaigners like Keith O'Connor and Shane McNeilis and a few of these guys. But for the most part, they're a relatively young team. I think one of the things they have to guard against is not being overconfident. Now, I'm not suggesting that was the cause that they've been beaten last year, but they've been made raging hot favourites since the start of the season to be closest, if you like, to Corofin this year, and maybe to go get ahead of Corofin. But you have to, you have to respect all opposition. And maybe in the past that lads could have said that they went into games like looking ahead to the next round. You know, maybe that's a bit harsh now, but you know, that's the way it would have seemed at times. And you know, if they take their eye off the ball against Kilfenora, it could prove costly. No more so than Corofin against O'Curry's. You know, you have to respect all opposition. And as I said, Aidan O'Keefe is a shrewd man on the sideline. You know, he's a quietly spoken man. He doesn't say much. He doesn't give away much, but he knows teams and he knows how to coach teams, and he'll have tactics and he'll have a plan for Kilfenora. And if they can deliver on that, you know, and Keane O'Dea and his brother Jack at midfield, you know, that's a very, very strong sector for Kilfenora. And, you know, they've Michal Duffy in up front, and they have some experienced players. So, but I know what you're saying, and Kildysart will feel that this is their time, you know, to step up. Football follows across the county. Believed will be a Kildysart Corofin intermediate final, and they believe that could be one of the games of the year. But neither team is there yet, so both Kildysart and Corofin have to bear that in mind. They have to look at their opposition this weekend on Saturday and can't look past that.
We'll move on now, and before we talk about the relegation decider and the senior, we'll just talk briefly about the Junior A final, a North Clare derby, Ballyvaughan versus Ennistimon. As I said, it's quite unique that one club plays two Junior A county finals in the 1 year. Ballyvaughan will have that a quotation mark beside their name forevermore in terms of the annuals of Clare GAA. And do you think maybe, Nicholas, that heartbreak the last time around is going to bitter the resolve to come out and topple an Ennistimon team that has an awful lot of players that would have played at senior championship in the past and would have played in minor teams for some reason that can't commit to the Ennistimon first team? Jonah Culligan on one side and Howard as well, two prominent players for Ballyvaughan. Do you think that hunger from Ballyvaughan is going to be the driving force?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, they want to atone, and they're in a county final, Ballyvaughan, and you know, they're strictly a football club. Obviously, up there, I don't think they have any dual players of too much, and they're concentrating solely on football. They beat Tony Quinn in the semi-final. I don't know if Tony Quinn put out their strongest team, but they accounted for them very well, and they're back in the final. And I suppose when you get back into a final 2 years in a row, you want to win it and go all out to win it. But as you rightly say, in this time and there, they have some big names there, and they'll certainly, you know, some of them are dual players as well. Some of them, Jerry Coos and Carl McGannigy, would be playing hurling there for Kilnamona. And, you know, they're all seasoned players there within this time. And Denny Rowan is there as well. Owen Mann, you know, all those lads, Cahill Frawley, full-back. You know, they're all very experienced teams. So I'd expect this to be a rip roaring junior final, you know. And I know I've been in contact with a few of the Ennistimon patron decks, and there's a lot of excitement building up for Ennistimon at the moment, and likewise up in Ballyvaughan there, beautiful part of the country, and you know, they say it's a really big day for both clubs, you know, and a really big day for Ballyvaughan especially, I think, and they want to bring that cup up to North Clare, you know, and so it makes for an exciting game. Looking forward, said Carol Walsh, the captain. He'll certainly want to be carrying that cup away on Sunday evening.
And Seamus, just looking on that, do you think seeing their near neighbours there in Ballyvaughan, seeing their near neighbours, Michael Cusack's, Kilfenora, all in the intermediate championship, obviously there's a bit of parish rivalry there at the moment. That's really going to spur Ballyvaughan on, because they will feel that they're at a par with those sorts of teams as well in North Clare as well. And for them to be a grade below those sort of near neighbours, that's not going to go down too well there. That's going to be extra motivation and sport for Ballyvaughan as well, you'd imagine.
Yeah, of course. It is. There's a great rivalry there in North Clare. The clubs, they're great supporters of each other in many ways, and I suppose they're all struggling with depopulation. That has been a factor for a lot of the clubs, and I suppose Ballyvaughan are now one step away from going up a grade, and they're not so far away neighbours. The Scanner, many would say, are one step away from dropping down a grade. The depopulation is affecting them, and there's a lot of factors involved in this game. Killian Malone, for argument's sake, who many would argue should be playing in the opening game in Milltown with his native Kilfenora, but he transferred to Innistimon, where he's based now, and he's coaching Ballyvaughan. So, and I know he played senior championship for Innistimon this year. Last year he played junior championship with Innistimon. And he's coaching Ballyvaughan now, so he'll know the ins and outs of what's involved as well. And I'm sure he'll be trying to bring about some kind of tactics that will upset his own club, as we'll call it now, because he's now a member of Innistimon. So there are those kind of side attractions, if you like. But the bottom line is Ballyvaughan have been close for the last year or two. They have a mixture of experience and some youth and a bit of youth in their team. This is their chance probably, but I suppose we're talking about depopulation. Depopulation is not affecting Innistimon. They fielded 3 adult football teams this year with a lot of success, won a lot of games, each of the 3 teams. So they have plenty of numbers. They've been very strong at underage level in recent years, very strong at minor level in the last couple of years, still in last year's minor championship, still already through to this year's minor championship semi-final. So they have, if you like, loads of players, which is something most clubs in the football world and Clare don't have. So from that point of view, they have every reason to be quite confident going into this game. I suppose the sympathy vote, if you like, amongst neutrals will be with Ballyvaughan, having lost the final earlier this year and haven't been close for the last couple of years. And I suppose the majority of neutrals will hope that for that reason it's the only team Ballyvaughan have, because they don't have enough numbers to play underage football on their own. They're part of a North Clare amalgamation with Michael Hughes and St. Kilfenora. And I think some of their players might play with St. Brecken's actually. But from that point of view, the neutral vote, if you like, will be with Ballyvaughan. It's going to be lively affair. Like the experience of having been in the final last year and having tasted defeat will certainly, I think, stand to Ballyvaughan. But they cannot take Innistimon lightly in this one, because Innistimon you will probably see 34 or 5 names in the programme for Innistimon for that panel. Ballyvaughan will be lucky if they can go a few above 20. That's the difference in the figures that they have up there. So that'll be a factor as well. But I think it's going to be a close enough affair, and it may well require extra time. We may have to see the lights switched on in Milltown to finish it out.
Finally, lads, before I let you go this evening, there's the last 2 relegation places will be decided, one at senior, one at intermediate grade. I'm going to start briefly maybe on this topic because we're running a bit late. Seamus, Clondigad versus Kilrush and Liscannor versus Wolf Tones. What are your thoughts?
Clondigad certainly are favourites, but they have to be wary. They cannot take anything for granted. They had a great win over Clare in the first relegation game to seal Clare's fate, send them back to intermediate. The loser of this game obviously goes down on form this year. Clondigad disappointed that they didn't make it to the playoffs of the championship proper, but on form they've been more impressive than Kilrush on that basis. They're fully entitled to the favourites tag, but they have to repeat the performance that they gave against Clare to be sure of it. It's a one-off game. Kilrush have nothing to lose. They're seen by most as the team that's heading down along with Clare, and that could mean danger, because they can throw everything at Clondigad. But Clondigad, assuming the same team turns up to play Clare, I think Clondigad will seal their senior status. And in the other game, Wolf Tones are the odds-on favourite. Liscannor themselves will admit that they're struggling with numbers. they've had a difficult year. They've lost all their games. They haven't won any game in the championship, and they find themselves in this place. And you know, unfortunately for them, a team that not that long ago contested a couple of county finals and senior finals in a matter of a couple of years, didn't win either of them at the time. But I think they'll have to go back to junior and start trying to build again, because you know, the couple of the older fellas, I'd say, are kind of nearing the end of their campaigns. Players who have given great service to Liscannor, such as the likes of Alan Clohessy and these fellas. But again, Liscannor never go down easily. They're never easily beaten, and they will make it tough for Wolf Tones. But Wolf Tones, having gotten over Aero, I think will survive, and I think they'll hold on to their status.
Nicholas,
your thoughts on both relegation games?
Yeah, I'd have to go along with what Seamus has said there. I'm sure I would go with Clondigate to beat Kilrush, and definitely, and I go with I think Wolf Tones will maintain their status as well. I don't think they'll go down. I think based on what we've seen and what we've heard, I think that's the way it's going to go. So I wouldn't argue with anything that Seamus has said there. Just to put on the junior final, Ocean Vaughan and Michael Vaughan are actually playing against the town of the Vaughans in Ballyvaughan. So just another interesting little one there for you.
On that note, lads, we'll wrap it up for this evening. That's our preview of the Clare Senior Football Championship semi-finals, the Intermediate Football Championship semi-finals, the Junior A final, and the 2 relegation encounters in the senior and intermediate grade. I would like to thank regular RCB analyst Nicholas Ring and renowned Clare sports journalist Seamus Hayes for joining us this evening. That concludes this week's episode of RCB Radio Sports Show, live at 92.5 and 94.8 FM and online at www.rcb.ie. That's all, folks. Take care and do join us again.